Welcome to the next installment in our SAMCO Power Accounting Tips and Tricks video series. In this episode, we'll take a look at some of the cool things you can do with a good old everyday date field. We're going to start off here in a sales analysis user-defined report. We're going to be entering our reporting periods. So rather than just simply typing in our date, which we could do quite easily, you can also use codes and shortcuts. Probably the most common one would be using the question mark. Simply enter the question mark into any date field and it brings up a calendar for you, and then from this calendar you can then scroll through the calendar forwards and backwards, so with the F1 and Shift F1, and simply double click on the date you want and it appears in your report. In addition to the question mark, you can also enter in some codes or shortcuts, if you will, into the date fields. Some of the more common codes or shortcuts include TOM for tomorrow. You'll also notice that the code that you've used shows up beside the date in this case. YES for yesterday. TOM for tomorrow. You can also enter in the first three characters of any day of the week, like SUN for Sunday, and it bases it on a this work week. So Sunday would be the last Sunday, etc. If you're wanting to look up a complete list of shortcuts or codes, you can go to the System Functions user manual. It's in Chapter 2. Or you can also do this right online, put a question mark in, and you'll notice that you can press the F3 key, and that will display the complete list of shortcuts that you can use, in addition to some of the other more advanced features, which we'll talk about in a second. So over and above the question mark for bringing up your calendar and the simple codes like today, tomorrow, yesterday, etc., there's also a more advanced feature set which comes particularly useful when you're doing reporting, so that you don't have to remember or type in a date range every time you want to do like this month, last month, etc. So in this example, we're going to be doing up a user-definable sales report, and we're going to do it for a 6-month range. So we're going to have 6 different reporting periods. So to achieve that, what we're going to do are use our codes. So again, we can put in our question mark, press the F3 to display a list of available codes. We can then copy that code in, press F4 to copy it in, and there it is. It doesn't actually put the code in, that simply puts in the equivalent date. In this case, we actually want to use the code, and we want to be able to save that code for future reference the next time we generate this report. So let's go ahead and we're going to put in BCM as our code, beginning of current month, and you'll notice that it not only puts in the date, it replaces the BCM with the actual date, it also retains the code that we entered. And then we're going to put in the end of the current month, ECM, and period A, and there we go. So now we've got our codes and for the first period, and now we're going to put in the codes for the next 5 periods, and through the miracle of modern technology you'll see that in a second. Okay, so we've entered in all of our date ranges here. We've got 6 date ranges. Again, our first range is for our current month. That's what the BCM and ECM are. Then we have the beginning of last month and the end of last month. And then you'll notice something a little bit different. The third one, we've got BLM minus 1M. What that tells the system, and this is what's called a modifier, what that tells the system is I want the beginning of last month minus 1M, or minus 1 month. Same in the next thing, ELM, end of last month minus 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, etc. You can use plus or minus, so for example you could theoretically put beginning of last month plus 1 month. Not sure if that'll work, but you get the idea. You can use plus or minus in your date modifiers. So here we are, we've got our user-definable report, we've defined a 6-month date range, and now we're going to save this report. Okay, so now I've saved my report, and the beauty of this feature is that by encoding the codes or the shortcuts into my reporting periods, it's actually going to remember the actual dates that it needs to report on based on those codes. So whether that's a 1 month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months, or a year from now, the dates that it reflects in the reporting period will be a reflection of that date. So here we're just going to load our report that we just did, last 6 months report, and you'll notice again that these codes are in the reporting periods, and that's what it's going to use when it generates this report in the future. Excellent for doing repetitive reports where you have consistent date ranges. So there you go. You can surprise your coworkers and impress your boss with all the things you can do with the date field. And be sure to check samco.com for more tips and tricks, and you have yourself a great day.